I believe that this coming week, we're going to hear two announcements from Terra. Two announcements that might just take Terra Luna to $100. But for starters, welcome to Crypto Saver. So in this video, we are going to be looking at the recent transactions that I found within LFG's Terra wallet. Now, for those of you that are unaware, for those of you that haven't had a chance to watch my previous video that I did, which I'm going to put it right here, we saw that a few weeks ago, LFG, which is Luna Foundation Guard, it's an organization that was set up by TFL, Terraform Labs, to basically handle the operational side of bringing more exposure to UST, while LFG ended up forming a contract of a bunch of VCs to trade over $1 billion worth of Luna for $1 billion worth of BTC to set up like a Forex reserve for UST, basically like an extra little emergency valve in case there's like a lot of unpegging that's occurring of UST. Again, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, just watch that video. But ever since those vesting contracts are out, we've seen some new things kind of popping up on their address. And let's look at the screen right now. So as I scroll right here, notice these contracts here that occurred on February 16th, right? All of these vesting contracts. These are the vesting contracts that were created for that specific situation, for that $1 billion worth of BTC, right? They were all created on the 16th. But as we scroll back up, here we go. We notice that there's 3 new transactions, and this is what we are going to be focusing on in this video, and we're going to make some educated guesses as to what these could actually mean. So the first batch was actually all done on the 27th. And notice here we have basically very similar to what we saw the prior week, which was vesting contracts for B Luna, because when the VCs actually traded over their $1 billion worth of Bitcoin for Luna, they didn't just agree to Luna; they actually wanted B Luna to be locked up into a contract. That way, their Luna is actually gaining staking rewards, so they even get a little bit of extra juice on the side from that. So when we add up the amount of B Luna in both of these contracts, we get 6,274,000 and some change, but we'll leave that alone. And if we take the market price of B Luna on that date, which was about $75, we get just about $470 million. That is the market value of that B Luna on the day that it was locked up. Now we could dig a bit further into this. Let's open up the transactions for both of these vesting contracts. Now as we scroll below, what we can actually also do is see exactly where this B Luna would head to after the vesting begins, once the vesting begins. And we can click right here for this one. And as it pops up, let's scroll below. So it's a brand new wallet. The vesting contract began. Notice that basically today is the 5th of March. So just about 3 days ago, they swapped some Luna for UST. Basically the Luna that was sent into their wallet, the very first transaction. And then they claimed their rewards from the staked B Luna. So even though the B Luna itself is actually inside a vesting contract and you can't touch it, the rewards you can. And just, a few days after that, right? So on the 27th, the vesting contract was created, but just 5 days later, maybe even less. Actually, February had even less days in the month. But like 4 days later, they already began to claim the rewards. I mean, they claimed $218,000 in rewards. I mean, holy. I mean, sometimes you wish that was you, right? I mean, being able to kind of wait 3 or 4 days and there's almost $250,000 in staking rewards to collect. I mean, that's pretty insane. But anyhow, they're claiming the staking rewards already. But let's look at the other wallet. Let's go down below and let us see where the other vesting contract went to, right? Because we saw 2 vesting contracts were created. And let's look at this one. Very similar type of thing here. The very first transaction, they received a little bit of Luna into their wallet. They swapped some Luna for UST to pay for the transaction fees. And they also claimed their B Luna staking rewards, right? This would be claimed within Anchor. In this case, they claimed 12,000 USD. It's obviously much less than what the other wallet did, and that is because this specific wallet is receiving less B Luna in the vested contract. As we go back here to the main LFG wallet, you can kind of see here that the first one has nearly 6 million B Luna is being vested, while here it's only 330,000. Now, something interesting to kind of take from this, as I bring up, let me see if I can bring up both of these transactions. Okay, so I brought them up side by side. I'm kind of flipping through them. Notice this. So let's go to, we'll go to this one. Notice the time at which these rewards were claimed at. So on the 2nd of March at 2:35, right? That's for the transaction, the vesting contract that had less B Luna in it. So 2:35. Look at the other one. 2:41, 6 minutes. Same date, 6 minutes later. Okay, so I think it's fair to say, unless it's a crazy coincidence, but I think it's fair to say that both of these wallets also belong to the same organization. It could be the same venture capitalist, because what are the chances that these went to two different organizations and that both organizations decided within the same 6-minute time frame to go in and claim their B Luna rewards? Very unlikely, right? So I would say that this is probably the same VC picked up all of these Luna into their contract, which is 470 million worth of Luna, which is pretty crazy. Something else I want to point out. Let's look at the end time, the start time, and the vesting interval. So these would be for the vesting contract itself. So how long would it take to start receiving some of that B Luna back from the actual smart contract? And what we will do here, we're going to look at one of the contracts from before. And I could just take either one of these, and we'll take this one. So we know that these contracts were made in the previous agreement with the VCs for the $1 billion worth of Luna. And if we look here, we can see the end time, the start time, and the vesting interval. Now, as I go back to this page, again, this is the page for this recent smart contract one, right? The one on February 27, just recently created. Look at the end time, look at the start time, look at the vesting interval as I switch back and forth between both tabs. Right, so I'm switching back and forth, and notice that nothing changes there. Absolutely nothing. And as a reminder, going off my notes from that video that I made when I kind of transcribed what those intervals actually were. So basically the deal for those vesting contracts, whether it's for this new one that was just appeared on their address or for the ones from 2 weeks ago, there's a cliff for 1 year, meaning no B Luna is released to the counterparty for 1 year, zero, except staking rewards. After that, there's a 3-year vesting period. So over the course of 3 years, the B Luna will be released to the counterparty. Now we just verified that these exact intervals, these exact rules are in place for these new transactions as they were in place for those from 2-3 weeks ago, where we received confirmed news that was for BTC. So with that being said, the only assumption to make is the fact that LFG is looking to procure an additional $400 to $500 million worth of BTC. It wouldn't make sense this is for something completely new, because even the specifics of the vesting contracts are identical to that of the agreements made with the BTC. So if anything, I think after they initially agreed for the 1 billion, they went back to the drawing board, maybe even a week later, talked to one of the VCs, and one of the VCs says, you know what, we want to double down. We want to put more money into this. Are you willing to expand on this offer? And I think LFG said, sure, let's do it. So I think in the next week or two, we are going to hear that LFG is going to add an additional $400 to $500 million worth of BTC to the Forex reserves of UST. So let's move on to the second piece of news that I think will be announced pretty soon. As we look on my screen right now, notice I have the Twitter page for THORChain, and in the name of the Twitter page, it even says #Luna is coming. Now, what does that mean? What is THORChain? So THORChain plans to be a DEX where you can trade native cryptos in between each other. So imagine being able to trade a native Luna for a native ETH. You will no longer have to worry about trading in between a wormhole or using a wrapped form of a token to trade in between chains. None of that. If we scroll below, we can even see here that if you have an XDeFi wallet, right from your wallet, you'll be able to swap between native tokens. Right, so in this case, we're swapping between a native ETH to a native BTC. So that's what THORChain brings to the table. And there's been hints that Luna and UST will be added to THORChain. So if someone wants to trade a native USDT for a native UST, they can do that on THORChain. I mean, even right now on THORChain, you can actually swap between native ETH to native Rune, right? Rune is the governance token for THORSwap, and it is on THORSwap's, THORChain's own blockchain, right? So you're swapping from Ethereum to THORChain's blockchain in this example, and you do not have to deal with any wrapped tokens to do so. Now, I'm gonna add a little bonus here. This is not a catalyst or anything, but it's just to show you how much demand there really is for UST. And this is a pretty new tweet that we saw from LFG here just a couple hours ago. And the tweet says, due to high demand in UST, the maximum amount is being minted by the protocol every day. As a result, people have turned to the Curve pool to get their UST, which has caused the Curve pool to become unbalanced. Now, what is Curve? I'm going to bring this up over here. So Curve, it is a DEX on Ethereum, and they were set up to really be efficient when it comes to swapping stable coins. To not go too deep here, but basically the formula that Uniswap basically uses for trading one token for the other, that's fine if you're dealing with two volatile tokens, but it's not the best formula for swapping two stable coins against each other. It's just not as efficient. There's going to be more slippage. Curve basically focuses strictly on stablecoins, and they have a much better formula that if you do swap one stablecoin for the other, you will have very minimum slippage when doing so. So it's become very popular. Now on Curve, you do not have what THORChain is offering, basically where you could swap a native token for a native token. That's not available. You are going to be dealing with a wrapped version since it is on Ethereum. So even if you get UST on Curve, it is a wrapped form of UST. But either way, going off that tweet, what does that actually mean? So let's look at this here. Let's look at these pools here, right? So notice in the currency reserves here, we have DAI, USDC, USDT, and SUSD. Notice that they're basically all 25% of the pool, as it typically should be, right? But if we head over to the UST portion of the site here, if we want to swap UST for something or something else into UST, notice the currency reserves here, added this pool here, and this would be the pool. It's obviously misbalanced, right? Instead of it being 50-50% as it should be, it's at 42%. And because of that, it will actually mess up the formula of how the stablecoin is being calculated. So as we can even see right here, if we want to swap USDT for UST, notice that 100 USDT would get us 99.61 UST. On the flip side, if we go back to this pool and we simply want to swap our USDT for USDC, notice that we end up with a lot more money at the end of the day, right? $99.97 versus $99.61. So this is what LFG is basically saying, that because there's so much demand for UST, whether it be on centralized exchanges or on various DEXs, and people are heading over to Curve, since at the end of the day, they do have the best the best formula in place for minimizing the amount of slippage between two stablecoins. But even then, there still is an issue that UST is basically drifting away from where it should be within the pool, and there is just more slippage when it comes to that. So this all just points to how much demand for UST there is. And if we go to this analytical site here, you can just see that day after day for the past week now, every single day, just millions upon millions of dollars of UST has been minted. So this last transaction that we have here in the LFG wallet, where they sent 5 million Luna to this address here, which we will open this up, has to do with that Curve pool. Because as we look at this address, as it loads for us, we can see every minute, 1,000 Luna is currently being burned for UST. Every single minute, and there is still quite a lot of Luna to be burned. And as LFG says, LFG will sell the UST into the currently unbalanced Curve pool, meaning they will actually make a profit doing so, because since there's so much demand for UST within that Curve pool, they can sell that UST more than for just $1. And what they get, so after selling all of that UST into that Curve pool to basically help balance the Curve pool, after that, they will also use that money to purchase even more BTC. So basically, on top of that 470 million that we saw in the vesting contracts, I believe is for BTC as well, they might even buy an additional 300 million BTC after they're done selling this UST into that Curve pool. So, I mean, LFG or Terra, however you want to look at it, they're really ramping up the amount of Forex reserves of BTC for UST. Now, I just want to clarify something. Seeing all of this Luna being burnt for UST does not mean that Luna goes up in value, because for that to actually happen is if LFG were buying this Luna off the market to then burn it into UST, because that would obviously drive up demand for Luna. But since LFG actually owns all this Luna already as it is, you don't have that little demand dynamic that usually would come into place whenever UST is off the peg and arbiters come in to try to, take advantage of that, in which case they actually do buy Luna off the market. So I think as we enter March here, I think we are going to be seeing a lot of good stuff coming off from LFG, from Terra, all these new things coming up, because there's a lot of demand, there's a lot of things in motion. I think Terra has really pushed on the gas pedal ever since December, I would have to say. And this is pretty exciting. It's very exciting to be a Luna holder during these moments. And if you feel that you learned something in this video, I appreciate a thumbs up. You can also subscribe for more Terra-related content. I would greatly appreciate that. And I did just open up a paid membership. You can see down below next to the subscribe button. The perks aren't anything too great, but I think I made some pretty cool looking icons you can see over here, which go next to your name if you comment below. So just take a look at the membership area if you're kind of interested in that. Other than that, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.